Listen, have you ever found yourself in a social situation, maybe with a friend or a colleague, or something happened and there was this conversation and they were frustrated or upset or just something happened and you felt emotionally so pulled in into that anger or frustration? Like sometimes we call it triggered in our culture. Sometimes you're like, what really pulled so out of whack emotionally that you found yourself like just difficult to manage. You found yourself just like trying to get on top of your emotions and you didn't know what to do, and you kind of hated yourself for how you feel, and you had to just strive so hard to even recover so that you can feel normal again. I think this is part of life for us who've been through trauma, who've been through difficult things, who've been through difficult experiences, because we open to it so much more. So today, I want to talk about the lived experience of how to stop emotional contagion, right? Which is such a real thing that we got to deal with. And lived experience of emotional contagion is something I know a lot about because I've been so often in my life and still am triggered by it. So I just want to share with you today my own perspective. By the way, if you don't know me, my name is Joe Bakhmutsky. I'm a survivor, but I'm also a thriver. I'm someone who just is on my own path to healing. And I believe that we all have this power to be happy, to see greater clarity in everything that we do, to show up at our best every single day, and to hold on to hope that no matter what happens in our life, things can and do change for the better. So many years I have struggled with my emotions, but there's a few things today that help me. And I really believe that it's like performing an emotional CPR on yourself, my friend. That's what we got to be able to do. We got to be able to do that, like almost like resuscitate ourselves. Otherwise, we get dragged into other people's emotional realities, their own frustrations, their own situations, things that we cannot control. So today, I want to talk about a couple of things that I know make a huge difference in my life in the hope that they serve you on your path towards trying to have more inner peace in life, towards feeling good about your life, towards leading a happier life. And this just three simple things to me that add up to the word CPR. And the first one is really choice. So often, I know it's so basic, but it's so true, right? We just walk into situations and sometimes we're completely unprepared, right? Isn't it true? Like sometimes you just go in, maybe it's like a family thing and get together, or like a work, meeting, and you kind of know what to expect. And yet you come in and it just brings you back to the place where, just like this, something happens and you snap back into the point where, how you felt when you were a kid, or to the point where, like this person is just like really in your face and they really get at you and you just feel like all over the place again. And I think that happens because we forget to set ourselves up for the situation that we know is coming. Because sometimes you walk into that situation, and whether it's your family get together, whether it's a work meeting, whether it's something you do with your friends, or is something to do with in your local community, and sometimes what's gonna might set you off, and sometimes you just walk into it unprepared. And what I advise you to do, because this is something that I practice today, and this helps me so much, is to come in with an intention. I go into the situation, and before I go into it, I know, like before I go into And then I go to myself like, what's likely to happen? What might trip me up? What might be frustrating to me? And like, how do I want to meet it? Where do I want to meet it? This isn't some grand thing, where I'm setting myself, I'm gonna be perfect, and I'm just gonna like nothing's gonna be better. It's just gonna be what is gonna be my intention. And sometimes, it's a family situation or something I know is gonna happen, something that I know might be challenging for me. I might go, you know what? I just wanna be present. I just want to have fun. I just want to notice and pay attention to, this person and how they're at, and just really find out about how they're doing. And maybe everything else, goes crazy and is frustrating and I don't like it, but I'm going to focus and concentrate on this one thing. Or I'm going to concentrate on just being in this particular way. Maybe I'm going to be fun. Maybe I'm going to be, I'm just gonna listen. I just have the intention that I'm gonna meet this person, and I know they're going through things, and I don't want to be pulled into their world. I'm just here to listen. I'm just not there to take on their pain or frustration or anger. I'm just gonna listen to them and let them work through it themselves. And so whatever intention that is, it could be one word, it could be like how your own overall approach, whatever you decided to be, but you are setting an intention, and that is a choice. And choice, my friend, is such a powerful thing that we don't get to exercise as often as we should. Because sometimes in life, we've had the choice taken away. When you had terrible things happen to you, when you've been going through difficult experiences in life, when you have painful things from the past that are interrupting the flow of your life, well, maybe in those moments, like sometimes we don't have that experience of exercising choice. And so what I'm here to share with you is that exercising the choice in simple situations, not like I'm gonna have choice about, my whatever, like the world, politics or something global. It's just about choice and exercising choice about how you're gonna show up in everyday situations that are gonna challenge you, because those things are gonna come. They're inevitable. And they're not some, horrible things that, we're going to meet and come up against. But they're everyday situations that happen. And I'm here to tell you that if you set that intention for yourself, not for other people, but for how you want to feel, how you want to show up, what do you want to bring, what you want to carry with you into that situation, into that family gathering, into that work meeting, into that get together, into that community group, that's going to help you steady you. That's something that's going to help ground you. And that's ultimately going to give you a greater sense of control of what's happening. Because maybe you can't control how this person gets around. Maybe you cannot control how this person, behaves. But you can kind of control how you do it. And even if it doesn't work out perfectly, maybe you still get, upset by this, or maybe something like sets you off. But you'll still much more likely kind of have it contained, right? Have it contained where it's not just totally derailing you or throwing you off track, but you're kind of keeping it under control. You give it those boundaries because you are making a choice of how you want to show up. So please, my friend, pick one word, pick one emotion, pick how you see yourself. And sometimes it's just like you could do it immediately before you show up. Or just even in the morning when you kind of think through your day and you got something on the horizon, you go, you know what, I want to handle it in this way. This is how I want to feel. I'll try my best. It may not happen, but I'm going to give it my best. That makes a world of difference, my friend. Choice. It's a big one. So choice is a huge part of emotional CPR that we do on ourselves. And the next one, the P for me, is really our ability to pause. Pause before we act. Because so often when we get into these situations and, we might be talking to somebody else, or maybe even reading a, news or something on social media, and you see it, and it might be something that frustrates you, or something that really upsets you, or something that reminds you, or something that's really difficult. And, it just kind of takes over, and it now spills onto other parts of your life. It now spills over onto kind of, other parts of your day. I mean, I remember for me, I was reading the news about the war in Ukraine, and I was just getting so upset by it because, that's where I'm from, and the news at them wasn't great. And I remember I went after reading that stuff on Twitter. I remember I came home and then I was with my kids, and one of them said something, and I just kind of snapped at him, and I was like, hold on a second, why did I do that? I mean, this isn't really me. This I don't want to feel this way. And I realized it's because I was reading this news, and it kind of got to me. And so I think what I'm trying to do now is to kind of actually pause before I do something. And now when I feel like something is frustrating, I try to kind of, and I get upset and I want to, say something or, react in particular. I just try to have that one brief moment where I hold myself before I say or do anything immediately in the moment. I just try to just hold off. I don't even do anything. It's not a big deal. I don't try to, do something big. I just try to hold off, maybe just take a moment to myself. Or if I can, if I feel really frustrated, I try to maybe, go into another room and come back, or I try to, go outside and have a breath of fresh air. Or if this is something that's kind of happened and I have a little bit more time, I might just go for a 2-minute walk around the block or something. And it helps me to distance myself from that immediate reaction. So whether that is a second, or whether that's a couple of minutes, or whether that is a couple of hours, sometimes that can make such an incredible difference, because you're now not reacting, from a place where maybe you got hurt or reminded of something, or something that came up from the past, but you are reacting as your better self, as someone who has had a moment to just kind of pause, stop, and just consider, just take in the moment, and then act from that place where you're not acting out yourself. You're acting from a higher self, from a place where you have had a chance to take a breath, whether that's a physical breath, like a deep breath, or just a metaphorical breath, where you just had breath, so a break, a breath between sentences, between your initial reaction to something that somebody said or did, or something that you were exposed to. That pause can make all the difference in the world. It ain't perfect, my friend. I can't always do it, but every single time I take a pause before sending off that email, responding to someone, or every single time I pause before, just reacting to something that someone, in my family or a friend that just upset me, every time I pause, I thank myself for it. And I want that for you, my friend. Because every time you do, you feel better about yourself. Because you know what? I could have snapped. I could have overreacted. I could have got sad. I could have got upset. I could have acted from that and then felt upset and sorry for myself and went down the other spiral of doom where all of these negative emotions kind of start to trip over each other and bring each other into the moment. Now I feel a little bit better. Pause before you act can make all the difference in the world to stop emotional contagion, my friend. And the last bit is the R in CPR, emotional CPR, that we should be doing for ourselves because no one else is going to do that for you, is our ability to reflect. And I think that's such a key thing that, again, we don't always give ourselves the time to stop and do and consider because we're so busy, because so many things going on, and you're often jumping from one moment to another, to one situation to the next, and we don't really get to stop and consider and reflect on how did the day go? How did the situation, play out? Am I happy with how everything happened? Is there something I can learn from this? Again, this is, I can't claim to do this perfectly, or that I'm some kind of a Buddha in this space where I figured everything out and now my life is, incredible and amazing. But every single time I stop and reflect about how that meeting went, how that day went, every single time I stop and reflect, how did this important conversation go? I always learn something new. I always get to reflect on things, even moments that I didn't handle well. That frustration comes out and I'm able to talk to myself and go, well, what can I learn from this? Why did I feel upset here? Where, in this situation, maybe I was doing a talk, or I was with a client, or I was just trying to present some new idea, or I was talking to my son about his soccer game. Every single time I go through one of these situations and I reflect on what happened, I'm able to draw lessons, and I'm able to figure out what I did well, what I didn't do well, but I try to focus on it from a place of understanding, of compassion, like I'm talking to a friend, not from a perspective of, beating myself up over something I should have done better. Look what I did wrong. I did, I overreacted. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I've done my best in this situation. Maybe I overreacted a little bit, but you know what? Maybe next time I can do this differently. Maybe I did this talk, and I think I started so well, and it just I got such a great response. But maybe next time I can stay on track a little bit better and not kind of go into direction because I got so excited. But I'm always able to learn something from myself. And those moments when we reflect with compassion, we are able to bring a little bit of kindness, a little bit of understanding for ourselves and for other people and their own realities, and for whatever that situation was, for how that day unfolded, for what you were able to do in that particular moment in time in a conversation with someone. That's always a time, an opportunity to go easy on yourself, to give yourself a break, to learn something from it, to grow from it, because we're coming at it from a perspective of trying to be more understanding, trying to be more compassionate, trying to be more supportive, to reflect on how you experienced it, on your experience of life. Because it's, that's, I think, what makes the biggest difference is us reflecting on our own experience. That's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we get clarity around true big things in my life. And speaking of clarity, I really believe that clarity is such a huge part of our lives, especially when you've been impacted through trauma. And sometimes we can develop these skills of coping, of dealing with day-to-day challenges and struggles of life. We learn how to put on a brave face. We learn how to get by. And sometimes we don't always learn the skills to actually go higher, to start dreaming again, to have greater sense of compassion, to have more confidence, to go after the things that you really want in life. And that's why I created a program based on my lived experience of healing from trauma and starting from a place where I felt miserable and just hated myself and my life, to a point where I genuinely wake up and feel like the happiest person in the world. I'm so grateful for the life that I have, because I was able to try and deal with the difficulties in my own way and find my own path towards living a happier and more meaningful life, to love, to be able to experience love and kind of give it to others and expect that in return. And I really believe it takes a different set of skills and capabilities. And that is why I developed my unique program called Clarity First. And it's a life coaching program that kind of helps you, where each session we work on one area of life, an aspirational part of life that you want to grow into. And we talk about some ideas on how you can make that happen. We talk about that experience. You take away actions for yourself so that you are able to get this rapid implementation into your life of these new skills, new capabilities, new ways of thinking, new ways of interacting with other people, so that you feel better about yourself, about the world around you, about what you are doing, and you are able to look towards the future with hope and positive expectations. If you want to find out more about Clarity First, go to powertobehappy.com. That's powertobehappy.com and click on the Clarity First link. Right now, my friend, I want to thank you for being here, for taking time to consider how we can better stop the emotional contagion, especially when you've been impacted by trauma. I champion you because it takes so much to be able to look into yourself and go, you know what? I feel like I can do better for myself. I feel like I deserve to be happy. I feel like I deserve more from life. And so I champion you, and for being here today, for taking the time to listen to this conversation, to taking the time to consider, maybe just something different, something, a new ways of thinking that hopefully helps you and pulls you forward, and performing the emotional CPR when you've been dragged down by other people's emotions, by difficulties of life. I honor and I champion you for being here. My name is Joe Bakhmutsky. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.